It was April 24th, 2025, just before 9 a.m. in Jaipur, India. Gayatri Yadav, a 45-year-old mother, was having breakfast when her phone rang. The voice on the line claimed to be from Sony Burn Hospital in Hisar. He said her 25-year-old daughter, Bhawana, a medical graduate, had suffered severe burns and was in critical condition. At first, Gayatri thought it was a prank. She laughed, said it was a wrong number, and hung up. But the same number rang again. This time, the man repeated her name, her daughter's name, and insisted on the seriousness of the situation. The confirmation of the information caused immediate panic and distress. The tone in his voice sent a chill down her spine. When Gayatri tried calling Bhawana, her phone was switched off. Panic set in. The family needed to verify the situation and reach Bhawana. They had to travel to Hisar to understand what had happened. The young woman at the center of this tragedy was identified as Bhawana Yadav. She was just 25 years old. Bhawana was a promising individual. She had recently completed her medical degree. Her future held the promise of a career in medicine. This aspiration was tragically cut short. Her age and profession highlight the profound loss. A young life with significant potential was suddenly in peril. The news of her injuries was particularly shocking given her background. A medical professional herself, she was now in critical need of medical aid. Her family grappled with the reality of her condition. The journey to Hisar was filled with dread and unanswered questions. They hoped for the best, but the initial reports were grim. The severity of the burns indicated a life-threatening situation. Gayatri Yadav and her son immediately undertook the journey. They traveled from Jaipur to Hisar. Upon arrival at Sony Burn Hospital, their fears were confirmed. The hospital staff verified Bhawana Yadav's admission. She had indeed been admitted with extensive burn injuries. The family braced themselves for what they were about to see. They found Bhawana in the emergency ward. Her condition was critical. The sight of her injuries was horrific. She had suffered brutal burns across large parts of her body. Her face, chest, arms, and legs were severely affected. The extent of the damage was immediately apparent. Medical staff provided initial assessments. Doctors noted the depth of the burns. The damage was so severe it had caused numbness. Bhawana was reportedly not experiencing pain sensation in the most affected areas. This lack of pain indicated deep tissue destruction. It underscored the critical nature of her injuries. The family faced the devastating reality of her condition. They sought information and understanding from the hospital staff. At the hospital, a man was present. He was identified as Udesh Yadav, sometimes referred to as Umesh. Udesh Yadav was the individual who had brought Bhawana to the hospital. He interacted with the family upon their arrival. He offered an explanation for Bhawana's injuries. Udesh claimed she had been burned while cooking. According to his account, it was a domestic accident. He stated he had then rushed her to the hospital for urgent care. To identify himself, Udesh provided a copy of his identity card. This established his presence and involvement in bringing Bhawana for treatment. However, his presence at the hospital was brief. Shortly after the family arrived, Udesh disappeared. He left the hospital premises without informing the family or staff. His sudden departure was unexpected. Attempts to contact him after he left were unsuccessful. His phone was found to be switched off. This disappearance and lack of communication immediately raised suspicion. His actions seemed inconsistent with someone who had just helped a critically injured person. The family was left with his explanation of a cooking accident, but his subsequent behavior cast doubt on his story. His identity and connection to Bhawana became a focal point. The circumstances surrounding his presence and departure warranted scrutiny. The initial narrative of an accident began to unravel. The focus shifted to understanding Udesh Yadav's role. Given the severity of her condition, a decision was made. Bhawana was transferred for more specialized care. She was moved from Sony Burn Hospital in Hisar, The destination was SMS Hospital in Jaipur. This transfer aimed to provide her with the best possible treatment. The hope was that advanced medical intervention could save her life. However, her injuries were too extensive. Despite the efforts, her condition continued to deteriorate rapidly. Tragically, Bhawana died shortly after being admitted to SMS Hospital in Jaipur. Her life ended prematurely due to the brutal injuries. Her death necessitated a formal medical examination. A post-mortem was conducted to determine the exact cause and nature of her injuries. The findings of the post-mortem were shocking. They contradicted the initial explanation of a simple cooking accident. The examination revealed stab wounds on her abdomen. These injuries were inconsistent with burns sustained during cooking. Furthermore, traces of petrol were found on her body. The presence of an accelerant suggested the burns were not accidental. These findings painted a grim picture. They indicated a deliberate act rather than a kitchen mishap. Gayatri immediately suspected foul play. She filed a 0 FIR in Jaipur, which was transferred to Hisar police. The pieces were starting to fall into place, but the picture was getting darker. The story went back 7 years. In 2018, Bhawana had attended a wedding in Haryana, where she met Udesh, a 24-year-old clerk working at Haryana Agricultural University in Hisar. Bhawana was 19 at the time. They fell in love. Udesh proposed, but Bhawana's mother insisted she complete her studies first. So Bhawana left for the Philippines to study MBBS. While she was abroad, Udesh married another woman, Nikki, in late 2018 and even had a child. Years passed. In September 2023, Bhawana returned to India and reconnected with Udesh over WhatsApp. The messages were intense, emotional. Bhawana reportedly begged him to divorce his wife and marry her. The relationship had turned obsessive. By early April 2025, Bhawana had joined FMGE exam coaching in Delhi. On April 21st, she traveled to the capital and stayed with her sister. She was supposed to return on April 24th, but never did. That's the same day Gayatri got the phone call from Hisar. CCTV footage would later show Udesh bringing Bhawana into the hospital, wrapped in a bedsheet. He left quickly, his behavior suspicious. Police later raided his room at the university and found a petrol bottle, burnt clothes, and Bhawana's phone and laptop hidden away. When police contacted Udesh's wife Nikki, she made an unbelievable claim. Bhawana had jumped over their boundary wall, poured petrol on herself, and set herself on fire in the courtyard. Udesh, she said, only rushed her to the hospital. But Gayatri wasn't convinced. According to the autopsy report, Bhawana had stab wounds. Her burns were only on the front side. Her back and hair were untouched, something that doesn't happen in a typical self-immolation. Gayatri believed her daughter was murdered. Police began examining WhatsApp chats between Bhawana and Udesh. The tone was emotional, sometimes desperate. There were mentions of, "If you don't marry me, I'll die." Investigators also retrieved CCTV footage of the hospital and the HAU premises. Udesh disappeared after Bhawana's death, but he surrendered days later. He's currently in custody, but he denies killing Bhawana. He claims she committed suicide, that she was mentally disturbed. His wife supports this version. Yet, the physical evidence, the burns, the stab wounds, the petrol smell, and the items found in his room suggest a different story. Police now have a complicated case on their hands. Was this a case of suicide born out of obsession or cold-blooded murder disguised as self-harm? The messages Bhawana sent clearly show emotional distress, but the post-mortem and crime scene evidence raise serious doubts. Could someone stab themselves and then set themselves on fire? Why did Udesh flee the scene if he was innocent? And why were Bhawana's belongings hidden in his room? This story is not just about a death. It's about emotional manipulation, unfulfilled love, obsession, and the blurry line between heartbreak and violence. In relationships, especially those involving intense emotions, mental health support is critical. Bawana was clearly in emotional pain, but whether that pain led her to end her own life or made her vulnerable to being murdered is still uncertain. Police continue to investigate. Forensic reports, phone records, and witness testimonies will be key to what happens next in this case. And so, what began as a simple phone call on a quiet Jaipur morning has turned into one of the year's most chilling cases. A young woman's life ended in flames and silence, and a trail of secrets left smoldering in its wake. If you found this deep dive insightful, hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss a case again. I'll keep you posted on any updates. Thanks for watching the Crime Case. Stay safe and aware.